This is a podcast from Duncan Cartlidge Online, the online resource for all construction professionals that's available 24/7. Please don't forget to subscribe at the place you usually get your podcasts, so as not to miss a thing in this second series, as well as visiting our YouTube channel. Hello again and welcome to another podcast from Duncan Cartlidge Online. As usual, Barney, my red Labrador, is here to offer advice and to keep an eye on proceedings, albeit he's fast asleep. And by the way, Barney and I would really appreciate if you'd like to write a review. If you're new to Duncan Cartlidge Online podcasts, welcome. Please don't forget to subscribe, as well as catching up with the previous episodes. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for your support. In this packed episode, we're going to cover a variety of topics, including value confusion, it's snagging time, and new procurement competency framework. Okay, we'll kick off with value confusion. You know, it never fails to amaze me how the concept of value is misunderstood and misused. Value has long been confused with cost, together with a concentration on bottom line capital cost. Perhaps it's not really surprising due to the number of qualifying suffixes attached to value. We have value analysis, value engineering, and value management. Could you define them? I find people are still confusing, deliberately or otherwise, value engineering, I'll use this term for now, all will be explained later, with the good old-fashioned QS practice of the euphemistically called cost reconciliation. Or, to put it another way, we've overspent, so what can we cut out to bring things back on budget? Even worse, we may need a bill of reductions, and who's going to pay for that? Recently, several exchanges on LinkedIn bear out the continuing confusion surrounding the meaning of value management. NEC4 introduced a brand new value engineering provision, Clause 16. This allows the contractor to propose changes that reduce the cost of the works in exchange for a proportion of the savings as specified in the contract. A value engineering clause also appears in FRICS suite of contracts. But of course, in the scenarios envisaged by NEC4 and FRIC, a design already exists. Therefore, by the principles of value engineering, the time has passed to determine the function and to come up with alternatives. The waters get even more muddy when the term value management is introduced. In the UK, value management developed in the 1980s and 1990s as a supposedly broader process to explore how value could be provided for a project at a strategic level by helping to develop, for example, the right project brief. Used effectively, value management, it is claimed, can reduce design and construction time by giving the design team a clearer focus of the client's priority requirements. In everyday use, the terms value management and value engineering tend to be synonymous and tend to get used interchangeably, and you should be prepared for this. I'm still searching for a definitive explanation of value management. Personally, I think value management was adopted by consultants because they thought it projected a more holistic approach to clients to managing value compared with tinkering around with value engineering. If anybody does have a definition of value management, please let me know. One of the definitions I've come across in the RICS Black Book is value management is a strategic exercise aimed at a broad collection of stakeholders, whereas value engineering is more likely to be technical analysis written for an engineering or project-focused reader. I'm still not convinced. On the other hand, value analysis focuses primarily on reducing costs by optimizing existing designs through careful analysis. It is described as a process for reviewing existing products or processes with the goal of identifying opportunities for improvement. Value analysis typically involves examining all aspects of a product or process from conception through production in order to identify potential areas of cost reduction. So, let's step back in time to 1947, when Lawrence Delos Miles, we'll call him Larry, an engineer working for the General Electric Company in America, was credited, if that's the right word, with the invention of value engineering. Value engineering, or as it was originally called, note, value analysis, is a function-based exercise that grew out of the need to find alternative ways to produce white goods, such as washing machines and refrigerators, at a time when traditional resources and production lines had been decimated by World War II. But nevertheless, consumers were ramping up their demand. The basic premise of value analysis is, we've defined the primary and secondary functions of a product. How do we provide these using the available resources? From this, the phrase, if we can't get the material, then we must get the function, was born. The concept spread in the US beyond white goods to other sectors, including civil engineering and construction. As with most techniques, the earlier value engineering is introduced, the greater the impact, and the cheaper the implementation of any recommendations. It should certainly under no circumstances be used as a design review. In the 1950s, value engineering was adopted by the US military with very encouraging results. There are 5 well-established steps in a value engineering study. They are: first, information gathering; 2, creative thinking, usually involving brainstorming. Larry Miles is quoted as saying, "This is best carried out in an atmosphere laced with bourbon and cigarettes." Those were the days, but count me in, Larry. Step 3 is analysis, evaluation and shortlisting. Step 4, development. And 5, presentation. It is in stages 3 and 4, analysis and evaluation, towards the end of the process, where the QS comes into their own, as proposals generated from stage 2 need to be priced prior to decisions being made and one or more proposals being developed and presented. On a related theme, I remember woodwork classes at school, where I was tasked on many occasions to produce toast racks, pipe racks and bookends. I always had problems in trying to adjust the tools, particularly the plane used for smoothing wood, and ended up taking chunks out of my coursework as well as me. I still bear the scars. Incidentally, in those days, the boys did the woodwork or metalwork and the girls did domestic science. Make of that what you will. At the time, planes for smoothing wood were expensive, heavy, difficult to adjust and keep maintained, and came with hardwood handles and brass knobs. Then one day somebody at Stanley, a well-known toolmaker, asked the question, what is a plane for? What is its primary function? Do we really need all this other stuff, including brass levers and adjustment wheels? As a result of focusing on the primary function, the Stanley Surform plane was designed, which is a fraction of the cost and weight of a traditional smoothing plane. What's more, it needed no adjustment or maintenance and came with a throwaway blade and plastic handles, and eliminated much of the waste associated with traditional planes, including having to resharpen the blade on an oilstone. But importantly, the Surform maintained the primary function of a plane, that is, to plane wood. The approach followed by Stanley was to reduce project costs by focusing specifically on the functional requirements of the project and then considering what alternative approaches could be adopted. This targets unnecessary cost that may have been built into the project specification as a result of unchallenged assumptions. These concepts focus on identifying ways to improve functionality, reliability, safety and sustainability of a project while reducing its overall cost. The Surform case study demonstrates the holy grail of value engineering, that is, to maintain or even enhance function while at the same time reducing costs. So, to finish off this section, let's try and define a few terms. First, value analysis. This is the Larry Miles approach. Challenge every aspect to analyse and establish the function of a project. Strip down a project to its bare bones, as in the case of the Surform. Perhaps the big mistake was to rebadge value analysis as value engineering. Secondly, value engineering. It now appears that this can take place at any point in a project's delivery. I have already discussed the position of NEC 4 to value engineering. A value engineering clause also appears in the FRICS suite of contracts, which states that the contractor may at any time submit to the engineer a written proposal which, in the contractor's opinion, will, if adopted, 1. Accelerate completion, 2. Reduce the cost of the employer of executing the works. Therefore, it would appear that value engineering can involve a design review, although I'm sure that Larry Miles would turn in his grave. And finally, value management. All I can say about this is that it's not value analysis and it's not value engineering. It's a bit of window dressing that incorporates several existing tools and techniques. Now, I hope this has made things a little clearer. No? Let's move on quickly. The second topic in this podcast I've entitled It's Snagging Time. We all know that there is a massive skill shortage in the construction industry, and we have all read the experiences of new build house buyers, often under the headline New Build Hell. It's a topic that I have referred to several times in podcasts and blogs. I learned recently it appears that the skill shortage is so acute, resulting in the quality of new build workmanship being so poor, that there is a growing profession of snagging inspectors. These are individuals who earn their living by inspecting new build houses and drawing up snagging lists. And, would you believe, there's even a National Association of Professional Snagging Inspectors. Check out their website. It's so new that it's still under development. Snagging inspectors will charge homeowners around £350 to £800, depending upon the size of the property, to prepare a snagging list in the hope that they can have their dream home made good. To me, it's reminiscent of the days before the ill-fated home information packs were proposed in 2006, when would-be home inspectors were lured by the prospect of making easy money carrying out home inspections and then domestic energy ratings. Looking at the websites of the firms offering snagging inspections, it does look on the face of it that snagging will not lead to a crock of gold for inspectors. It's certainly a sign of the times, but some would say it's an ill wind that blows nobody any good. Sorry, by the way, for any strange noises off. Barney has just decided to wake up. And now, moving on to our final topic for this podcast, procurement competency. This month sees the publication of a new framework that defines the competence requirements for those involved in construction procurement, based in part on the experiences that led to the Grenfell Tower fire. The framework has been drawn up by a panel including the RSES, the CIOB, the APM, and the Chartered Institute of Procurement and Supply. The document includes 17 minimum competence areas procurement practitioners should comply with. There is no legal requirement to follow the framework, but it does recommend that the level of competence for procurement professionals should be proportionate to the level of complexity of the work being undertaken. Where a procurement practitioner is working on a higher risk building, as defined by the Building Safety Act, or in a complex environment, it is recommended that they are externally accredited by a relevant recognised external body in relation to procurement, and that specialised bodies exist for this purpose. Details of relevant assessment schemes against this framework are available from relevant specialist bodies, including any prior learning or assessment requirements. The procurement practitioner should maintain competence through a commitment to CPD, and where externally accredited, should be reassessed against the framework every 5 years. The framework highlights 4 fundamental features of a procurement that need to be presented in any competency framework, namely selection by value, early supply chain involvement that improves safety and reduces risk, collaborative relationships that improve commitment, and finally, a golden thread of information that integrates design, construction and operation. The concept of a golden thread, or digital golden thread of information for buildings, required by the Building Safety Act, was initially recommended by Dame Judith Hackett in her 2018 report, Building a Safer Future. The recommendation aims to aid duty holders in the design, construction and management of their higher risk buildings as holistic systems. It represents a major shift in the approach to safety and compliance in construction following the Grenfell Tower disaster in 2017. Essentially, it encompasses the building's development and its ongoing safety and maintenance. The digital golden thread focuses on accuracy, ensuring compliance with the building regulations, transparency, documenting who did what and when, including any changes made during and after the design phase, and accountability, confirming that the construction matches the intended design and is safe for occupancy, including safety ratings, with all this information being captured and shared digitally. To me, it sounds like good old-fashioned common sense, and it would seem as though the responsibility for ensuring competent procurement professionals has been left with the various professional bodies. I know the CIOB runs such a scheme, but as for the others, I'm not sure. You'd have to wonder whether the industry will take note. Oh, yes, finally, P.S. I got a practice note from the RICS this week on the topic of being an expert witness. Remember, there's still an ongoing Mothgate affair. The alert warns that, and I paraphrase, members' expert assessments must be personally undertaken and prepared, and not an edited version of another's work. Looks like goodbye, Justin. Well, that's all for this episode. I hope that you found it interesting. Thank you for listening to the end. This has been a podcast from Duncan Cartlidge Online, and of course Barney. And Barney and I would really appreciate it if you were to spread the word, subscribe, and, if you have time, write a review. Until next time, take care.